This Tuesday morning edition of Pucks Across Borders brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. Right now, with promo code Sports Addict, you get 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires. What's your sport? Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, maybe even wrestling, maybe even boxing. Whatever it is, you can get it at firstroundcollectibles.com. And like I said, use the promo code Sports Addict for 10% off. Plus, they have cards up to 50% off. And with that promo code, you get an additional 10% off. Whether it's a sales item, whether it's not a sales item, you get 10% off with promo code Sports Addict. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one. STRoundCollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah, I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they.
And welcome to Pucks Across Borders on a Tuesday morning, the morning after a chaotic day, to say the least, on a holiday Monday. Good to be with you. Thank you so much for joining us whenever, wherever you are watching this. We appreciate it. I am your host, Mark Sauter, and with me at the top of your screen, you read his work about the NFL on gridironheroics.com. John, how you doing on the Tuesday morning?
After interesting holiday slate yesterday, I'm looking forward to talking about it. A lot of crazy games around the NHL in a jam-packed Monday for both President's Day and Family Day. So definitely have a lot to get into.
Absolutely. And at the bottom of your screen, you read his work about the NFL on Gridiron Heroics. You read him on Winners and Whiners. You read him on Total Apex Sports about the NHL. You see him on Total Apex Sports talking about the NFL, talking about the NBA. Andre, how you doing on a Tuesday morning, bro?
Probably not doing as well as Minnesota Wild fans after yesterday's game, but I'm doing pretty well. Can't complain.
Yeah, we absolutely have to talk about that. I mean, that was, as I was saying to you guys before the show, so for those of you who don't know, if you're watching this show, I'm sure you've at least seen the highlights by now. Minnesota beats Vancouver 10-7. Going into the third period, Vancouver is up 5-3. Just a train to the penalty box, like 5-on-3, 5-on-3, 5-on-4, 5-on-3, just insane. By the 18-18 mark of the third period, there were 18 minutes and 18 seconds left, and Minnesota was up 6-5, finishing the game off 10-7. Just absolutely insane. And something happened in the NHL universe where, as that was happening, Edmonton and the Coyotes, they scored 3 goals in the first 7 minutes of their game. The Winnipeg Calgary game, there was 3 goals in the first 7 minutes of that game. It was just a crazy, crazy day in the NHL, and maybe we'll talk more about it, but let's get to our takeaways. John, we'll start with you, man. What's your takeaway from a crazy holiday Monday in the NHL?
Definitely a lot to choose from when it comes to takeaways yesterday. A lot of crazy games, competitive games, but I think my takeaway is going to be shipping up to Boston with the Bruins, giving them a shout out for their performance yesterday. I think we described yesterday before on the show for that game as one that looked to be very competitive, looked like it was going to be very compelling, and I think it lived up to the hype. Boston and Dallas showed why they were two of the better teams in the league. Regulation was not enough for those two teams, and even another 5 minutes of overtime didn't do the trick. So it came down to a shootout. I think when we were texting yesterday, one of you guys said that was an ugly looking shootout. I forget who, but
Yeah, that was me. I didn't love it, but that's okay.
well, in ugly fashion, I guess that's the definition of Boston. They come up with a win. And honestly, we were talking about Boston for a couple minutes on the show yesterday, and during their segment, I felt like that yesterday's game was a very important one for the Bruins, mainly because I think we all agreed that in the long run they would be fine, but they were starting to lose the Atlantic Division to Florida a little bit. I think yesterday's win got them back on track and sent a message to Florida, my opinion at least, is like, we're still here. You're going to have to keep fighting if you want to beat us. And I feel like after a 4-game losing streak, morale-wise, that was a huge win for the Bruins.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like one of us, somebody here, is going to talk about this game in the Bad Beats segment, whether it's me or whether it's Andre. I feel like one of us are going to take a run at that game because Dallas had that game, man, 3-2 with, I think Boston scored with like a minute and a half left in the third period or something like that, and so for Boston to come back, tie the game, and to win it, and yeah, man, I don't know. The shootout's fine, but 9 rounds, like if it's your team, then it's like exciting. But if you're just a casual hockey viewer and you're watching 9 rounds of, and some of the shots were like Pasternak, like it's just not entertaining, man. And even
they only scored 2 goals in the shootout too. So
yeah, and like yeah, exactly. And like the 3-on-3, half the time they're skating into the middle of the ice and going all the way behind their net, and it's like, what are we doing, man? Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old and grouchy. Maybe that's it. But Andre, we'll go to you, man. What's your takeaway in the NHL last night?
Arizona cannot buy a win. They had the Whalers in the palm of their hands going into the third period. Scored 2 in the second to take a 3-2 lead on home ice, and proceeded to fall apart. They gave up 4 goals in the third. Edmonton continued to play very well. 6-3 win. Cruise to a win out of nowhere. Whereas Arizona just can't. You said it the other day. Schedule's hard, and they just can't buy a point. They can't buy a break. They're not making the playoffs, man. It's over. It's brutal, but it just keeps happening. It really does. It's like they have leads against these teams, and they just can't close it out like every time.
That's exactly it, man. Like if you watch these games, they're always in these games. Like the 5-1 loss to Carolina Friday night, I think that loss we can put to the side. All these other losses, man, they're in these games. Like that Colorado game, they could have won that game. The Edmonton game last night, like you said, and shout out to the Edmonton fans, bro. Those guys know what's up. Like I can complain about the weather here. We're nothing compared to Edmonton. Like the weather out there, it is cold and it is snowy and it is awful. We've had spring, like it's pretty cold right now, and we got some snowfall here in the Toronto area, but for the last like month and a half we've had like spring weather basically. But those Edmonton fans, they see, middle of February, Arizona, they take over Mullet Arena, and just like almost all Edmonton fans, like poor Arizona Coyotes, man. Not only are you playing in a 5,000 seat stadium, but they're all Edmonton fans. It's like you're in the middle of a 10-game losing streak, and it's like that's tough sledding, man. No, you're 100% right. And yeah, my takeaway, to go back to the Vancouver game, but even to touch on the Winnipeg game too, like both those teams had a terrific game. on Saturday night where Winnipeg won. Both those teams had 2-goal leads. Now Vancouver's 2-goal lead was going into the third period. Winnipeg's 2-goal lead was in the first period. Both those teams could have and probably should have won those games, and they were both playing teams in Minnesota and Calgary who are fighting for their playoff lives. And for Minnesota and Calgary to dig down deep and for both of them to pull out victories, Minnesota is now 2 points back of St. Louis for that last wild card spot, where Calgary is now 3 points back of St. Louis for that last wild card spot. So really, really captivating to see two of the best teams in the league both give up 6+ goals, both give up 2-goal leads, and both end up losing. And if you're Vancouver, like I heard someone on the radio this morning say, I know it's the backup, but the goaltending has to be better. It's like, yeah, of course. He gave up 10 goals. Like, thank you for that. Or he gave up 8 and 2 empty netters. It's like, yes, thank you. It's very good analysis by you. But for you to score 7 goals and lose a hockey game, like Casey DeSmith has been a very good backup goaltender all year. These type of things happen. But for you to score 7 goals and lose, that's tough. But I was really impressed with both Calgary and Minnesota. And Vancouver and Winnipeg both play tonight and have the opportunity to redeem themselves. And we'll get into that as the show goes on. All right, let's move on to our bad beats. Andre, you want to take it? Someone's got to take it. That Dallas game. Or you got something different? Do you have a different bad beat?
I feel like you want to take it. I feel like that shootout's really got you fired up. So I'll head to Tampa. Besides the fact that the Lightning basically didn't show up until the end of the second period.
Yeah.
The over was 7 in that game. You're looking at both teams, weak goaltending, explosive offenses. You're feeling good about it. You're feeling really good about it. And, only 2 goals in the first. Whatever. 2 more in the second. Okay, there's a good chance. 2 early goals in the third within the first 5 minutes. So you're like, this is locked in, especially, you get that empty net situation at the end. Like, over 7's going to hit, or is at least going to push. Like, I'm getting my money back at the very worst. These fools didn't score for the last 15 minutes of the game. 4-2 final. Just needed 1 goal to at least, get your money back. What are they doing? What are they doing down there? Like, Mark, that's your division. You're an Atlantic guy. Like, what's going on? Can they pull it together?
I don't know. But I had a very profitable day yesterday, and that was my last bet of the day, and it really ruined a great day.
Real vibe killer for the last game of the night, just period.
Well, and not only did the over not hit, but Tampa Bay, like you said, didn't really show up till the end of the second period. And I mean, John, you were all over those guys, man. Like that was.
Yeah,
and I mean, well, and I mean, yeah, there's a whole other conversation. Like they lose that game in regulation. Both the Leafs and the Red Wings win last night. Leafs now 3 points clear of Tampa Bay, sitting in that third spot in the Atlantic. So huge 2 points. Didn't even get 1. And Ottawa, with all due respect to Ottawa, that's a game that you have to win. John, we'll go to you, man. What's your bad beat?
Yeah, that was just to go back to Tampa for a second. That was one of my worst best bet picks in like a week. Because I've been on a good run recently with those, but that one just did not make me look good at all. I'm a little disappointed in Tampa, but as a fan, I should be happy because Tampa's played a few extra games, and now they're coming right back to the Devils and the Wings. So, all right, I'll leave them to the side for now. Getting to my bad beat, I don't know how much of a bad beat this was, more like the victim of a chaotic game. I think we have to touch on Vancouver and Minnesota. Yesterday, I felt pretty confident Vancouver would take care of business against the Wild. I did not, again, another take that didn't age well. I did not think the Wild could outscore the Canucks. I really didn't. Boy, did that age badly. But as Mark said, at the end of the second period, that was looking good for Vancouver backers because they were up 5-3. Then I don't know, man. The wheels just fell off. You give up 7 goals in one period. And we were in our group chat yesterday talking back and forth. And I swear, man, I think the Wild scored 4 goals in 4 minutes, maybe not even. And it went from 5-3 to being 7-5 Wild real quick. And Minnesota scores 7 total goals in that period. I think what stuns me more than anything is that Vancouver allowed that many goals. Because Minnesota's not a bad offensive team, don't get me wrong. But Vancouver, one of the top goaltending teams in the league, allows 7 goals. And I believe you guys were saying Vancouver was always playing with a man or two down for a lot of that stretch too. So
yeah.
I don't know if I've seen many games this year where the wheels just fell off in that fashion. I think it was a noteworthy game from yesterday. And I got to say, it's rare that we talk about the Canucks that negatively, but wow, was that a collapse yesterday? And I think it was the loss that hurt the most yesterday of the games we picked. So that's my bad beat just for an unbelievably chaotic game.
Yeah, and I think what stands out to me more, in my opinion, about that game is it doesn't really change my opinion on Vancouver at all. That was just one of those games. It was super insane. But the big boys for Minnesota really, really stepped up. We've talked about it. Minnesota is not the deepest team, but Eriksson Ek scores a hat trick, gets 3 helpers, 6 points. Kaprizov, he gets a hat trick, one of them being the empty netter, but he gets the hat trick. So the big boys really, really stepped up. Here's the thing, though, John. For me, and I know for Andre too, yeah, the Vancouver game stung, but you know what? They were down by 2, down by 3 for the majority of that third period. You just warmed up to the idea that game was done. Yeah, got to 10-6, got to 10 or 8-6, but you knew that was done. That Dallas-Boston game, man. Dallas is up with a minute something left, and Boston scores to tie it up. And then in an excruciating overtime where, mind you, Dallas had the puck for the majority of that overtime period. Dallas had the control of that overtime. Couldn't get the puck in the net. They score the first shootout goal. Boston has one chance to score, tie it up, or Dallas wins. Boston scores. The shootout goes on for another 6 rounds, and Boston ends up taking the victory. So that was one that stung for sure. And that sucked for me because, I'm not going to lie to you boys, I was on a bit of a roll. The Toronto game, a couple prop bets, the Leafs winning by 2. A lot of good things happened to me financially in the first few hours of the NHL day yesterday. The Leafs up 3-1. St. Louis scores 3-2. And then the Leafs get the empty netter, get me back my -1.5. Lots of good things. And the Dallas game kind of put a halt to all of that. All right, let's move on to our breakdown of all 8 games in the NHL tonight. Starting with Ottawa in Florida. Florida -245 favorites at home. Ottawa plus 200. Road dogs plus 1.5 puck line for Ottawa is minus 112. Minus 1.5 puck line for Florida is minus 108. The over is 6.5 at minus 130. The under is plus 110. John, we'll start with you, man. What do you see? You had a tough start to the Florida games in the NHL. Let's see if you can redeem yourself. What do you see in this game tonight?
Maybe this is the definition of insanity, but I'm doubling down on the fading of Ottawa. I just don't buy that Ottawa can do it twice. I know I look bad picking against them yesterday, but I'm going to trust the Panthers to take care of business here, and I'm going to take the puck line for Florida. I think Ottawa's running into a much better goaltending team this time around. They're playing a back-to-back, and I think they're stepping up in competition from the team they played yesterday. And I know Ottawa can score. There's no doubt about that, but they're going up against a top 3 goaltending team in the NHL. And I think we all know Ottawa's goaltending and defense is, to put it, well, not so nicely, putrid. Ottawa, I'm not very confident at all that they can hang for a second straight game. Maybe this will kill me, but I'm going to take the Panthers minus 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I got a crying child. Save that thought.
Maybe Andre.
Andre, what do you see in this game tonight, bro?
Yeah, like John, I'm doubling down here. Outside of everything wrong with the Senators, the Panthers are on a roll right now. 5 straight wins, all by multiple goals. The latest, 9-2 in Tampa. Now they're back home. Now they have a Senators team that, like John said, you can score on very easily. The Panthers have no issue keeping teams out of their offensive zone, preventing other teams from scoring. The Panthers, only time they played the Senators this year, they won 5-0. I don't think this was going to be much different with the way Florida's playing right now, especially since Ottawa's on the second half of a back-to-back. So I like that minus 1.5 a lot at minus 108. I'm not going to bump it up because I think we've all learned our lesson from yesterday, but I wouldn't be afraid to if it came down to that.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line is that was the right pick yesterday, John. Like, I know that, Tampa didn't show up till the second period, but that was the right pick yesterday, man. Like, Ottawa is an absolutely beatable team. Yeah, they can score a lot of goals, but they can get scored on a lot as well. Tampa Bay should have won that game 6-4. And that, sometimes this happens, man. That was the right pick. Yeah. And sometimes I would
don't show up.
Yeah, and I would probably pick it again. That being said, this is what we've seen from Tampa Bay all year long. It's just super, super inconsistent. The Sergachev injury on the back end certainly doesn't help things. But this is what we've seen from that team all year long. A team that we haven't seen that from is Florida. And like I've said this for the last week or two now, and a lot of people said this long before I was saying this. The road to the Stanley Cup goes through Florida, and you're going to have to beat them to get into the Cup final. This is a very, very good hockey team. Like you said, Andre, they're on an absolute heater right now. Like you also said, they destroyed Ottawa earlier in the season, 9-1 in the last 10 games. Ottawa 6-3-1, probably their best 10-game stretch of this season. I really like the over here. I do think Ottawa can still keep up. I do think Ottawa can still score. I don't think it'll be the 5-0 beatdown that was in November, the last time these two teams faced. I like the over. I know it's minus 130. It's a little expensive, but I do like the over. But I also do like Florida minus 1.5 at minus 108. Moving on. Your boys, Andre, they're back in action against Dallas. Minus 142 favorites are the Rangers at home. Plus 120 underdogs are the Dallas Stars. Minus 1.5 is plus 160 for New York. On the Dallas side of the puck line, plus 1.5 is minus 192. The over is 6.5 at plus 102. And the under is minus 122 at 6. Yeah, the under is also obviously 6.5 at minus 122. Andre, as always, man, we'll start with you. And I also want your opinion on a kind of a side note. Dallas scores a ton. They don't necessarily stop the puck extremely well. Over 6.5 plus money. That's a hard one not to take.
Yeah, I feel like they're banking on Dallas just being tired from playing yesterday in Boston, playing a couple days before that in Dallas. That's really what I'm seeing from this line and from this game. So yeah, that over looks juicy, but I would trust the under a lot more because even with the Rangers' last game being 6-5, I guess the game before was 7-4, but their defense for the most part has been extremely better since the break. The first 5 games were, or I guess the first 4 games, they were incredible. Held, held Tampa and Colorado to 1 and then shut out Calgary. So back in the Garden, I would trust the defense more. I would take the under for sure. Looking at a side here, Dallas has been playing really well lately, but last 2 games they couldn't finish against good teams. Now they're on the road, second half of back-to-back against another good team. They've played 2 overtimes the past 3 days. I like the Rangers 60-minute line here at plus 100. Just a little bit better than that minus 142. It's doubling your money. And I'm really going to trust the Rangers to win at home here. They've been playing very well since the break. I'm kind of wary that the streak's going on for too long and the bubble's going to burst eventually, but I don't think it's going to be against a team on the second half of a back-to-back. Not even for as well as Dallas has played for most of the season. So I'm taking Rangers 60-minute line in the under.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't have too much more to add. I think the fact, like you said, Dallas, 2 overtime games in the last 3 days. 3 games in 4 nights is not easy for anybody, but when you're going to the Garden, that's tough. And I think the Rangers have been playing really, really good hockey. And I also think from a morale standpoint, you're losing that game 4-1 on Sunday. And I know that the Islanders aren't like world beaters by any stretch, but you're losing that game 4-1. You crawl back, you find a way to tie it up late, you find a way to win that game. I think that's huge. I think that moment was huge. And we're going to talk about the Devils later in the show. Now, the Devils need a much bigger catapult than the Rangers do. The Rangers are well on their way to winning the division, but I do think that the Stadium Series is going to do something positive for both of these teams. And I see the Rangers winning tonight. I'm getting a little bit tempted by the puck line, to be honest with you, but I'm going to stick with the 60-minute line just like you, Andre. And I'm going to stay away from the total. I do like the over. I know what you said is absolutely true. I mean, Dallas games go over. That's just kind of the trend that we've seen all year long. And I'm a little bit distracted by that plus sign in that over, but I'm going to stick with a 60-minute line and go from there. I do think Matt Duchene, anytime goal scorer, and Panarin, both of them are hot hands right now. And I like a little sprinkle on those two for any time goal scorer. John, we'll go to you, man. What do you see in this one?
The fact that this is the 3rd game in 4 days for Dallas should make me want to jump on the Rangers. I think the problem is on the Rangers side, there's not a specific bet I really love here. Like the minus 140 is a bit juicy for a money line. I could see this being another overtime game for Dallas, so I'm a little hesitant to take the 60-minute line as well. And the same thing with the puck line. I don't know if I trust the Rangers to win by 2 either. Even though I do think they're going to win the game, I just don't have confidence in any particular spots for the Rangers, which is why I'm heading towards the total and picking the under 6.5. I do feel like Dallas is going to be tired, especially playing 2 overtime games the last 3 days, as mentioned before. I know Dallas is the top scoring team in the NHL, but the Rangers are number 8 in goals allowed per game. And also combine that with Dallas being tired. And I think it's very telling that there's juice on the under rather than the over, despite having the top scoring team in the league playing. So I think all of that is making me lean towards the under as the safest pick here. I can't hear you, Mark.
Yeah, we're good. Let's move on. Huge day, really, in the Met specifically. Lots of big games, including our next one, the Islanders in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh minus 135 favorites at home. Islanders plus 114 on the road, minus 1.5 for the Penguins puck line, plus 180, plus 1.5 for the Islanders is minus 218. Over 5.5 is minus 125, and the under is plus 105. So all morning I've been thinking about this game, and right off the bat, I want to back Pittsburgh in whatever way that I can. But I don't know. Something about that Islanders game on Sunday against the Rangers, something about it. I feel like the Islanders are going to come through tonight on that money line. I do. I really like Pittsburgh. I really like the season Crosby's been having. I think Pittsburgh is probably a more experienced team. Both of these teams have underperformed all year long. They're both Pittsburgh 26th in goals for, Islanders 20th in goals for, both of them not scoring a ton. I do think you can score more on the Islanders than on the Penguins, but I don't know, man. I think that game really bummed the Islanders out, man. Like they should have won that game. They needed to win that game. I don't know. Something about that money line speaking to me. Everything is telling me that Pittsburgh can win this game. I also think both of these teams had heartbreaking losses on Sunday. So I do think both of these teams are going to fight. 5.5. I think on a normal day, I would probably take the under, but I do think that both of these teams are going to come out swinging, and I can see the overhitting, even if it's just 6 goals. I can see the overhitting, and I'm leaning Islanders on that money line. Not extremely confident, but I don't know. Something's telling me that this team squeaks it out. John, we'll go to you, man. What do you see here?
I agree with you. I'm leaning Islanders in this one, mainly because they're coming off the heartbreaking loss, and I say heartbreaking because that was a bad collapse by them on Sunday against the Rangers. They were up 4-1 in that game, and they lost. So it says a lot. I do feel like the Islanders are going to play a little bit desperate. They're going to want redemption tonight. Maybe play mad, even take it out on the Penguins. I mean, the thing with Pittsburgh is they're a great goaltending team, one of the better ones in the NHL. Certainly a lot better than the way Sorokin and the Islanders are playing right now. But I don't think Pittsburgh can score the way the Islanders can. I think Pittsburgh relies on grit and goaltending, which I'm not sure if that holds up today or not. The main thing I'm fascinated to see is the power play matchup here because, Pittsburgh has a horrible power play, but the Islanders have a atrocious penalty kill. But meanwhile, the Islanders' power play is somewhat decent at nearly 24%, and the Penguins' penalty kill somewhat decent too, maybe just under 82%. So I'm a little fascinated to see how the power play matchup plays out on both sides here. I do think the Islanders have more upside when it comes to scoring. Pittsburgh's definitely the better goaltending team, but I think the Islanders are going to be playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder tonight. I also think they're seeing the playoffs slip away a little bit, so they need to get going, especially with Patrick Roy in command. Yeah, I like the Islanders here. I think plus money is good value.
And before we go to Andre, I gotta throw this in there as always. Sidney Crosby. Let me just make sure I got this right. Sidney Crosby, 4 goals in his last 5 games, plus 120 to score. The odds are getting worse and worse, but you gotta make money on Crosby while you can. He won't be here forever. Andre, go to you, man. What do you see in this game tonight?
I'm kind of like you, Mark, where everything in me screams Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh. Like, I feel like they're the better team. I trust them more to win. They obviously have the strongest unit in this game with their PK and then subsequent like goaltending and defensive abilities this season, because they've been very good at keeping pucks out of the net. But it just feels like you guys both said, the Islanders are gonna come back in this game. Are they gonna come back with a vengeance, because they were in control of Sunday Stadium Series and then fell apart on a national stage? So I'm kind of torn. I think I'm gonna trust my gut though. I think I'm gonna take Pittsburgh.
Okay.
The 60-minute line. I'm gonna defy what I guess I'm gonna defy my gut. I'm gonna trust my head in this one. The other thing that's really grasping at me is that under 5.5 at plus money, because I just feel like it's going to be like a 2-1 game, like maybe 3-2 if both teams are feeling frisky, get a little overtime. But I just don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. Not trusting it though. Like, I could very easily also see this being like a 4-2 game. Both teams really need to bounce back. There's just so many ways this one could go. This is a really interesting game to me. So
yeah,
I'm going to take the minute line on their home ice, though. I trust PPG Paints Arena to want it really bad. The place gets rocking. They lost Jaeger retirement night, so I think it's going to be personal for them to get back in the win column. And I'm going to take the under 5.5 with that at plus money.
I think it's worth saying, with the indecision that I have and that you have with regards to this game, there are no plays that are super easy for me tonight. Like, every game on the board really requires me to dig deep mentally and to really think about which way I actually want to go, because there's just some really compelling matchups for sure. Moving on to your boys, John. The Devils are in Washington. Washington is plus 142 home dogs, rather. Minus 170 on the road are the Devils. Minus 1.5 on the New Jersey puck line is plus 150. Plus 1.5 on the Washington puck line is minus 180. The over is 6.5 at minus 112, and the under is minus 108. Now, before we go to you, John, to get us started with this, a little update. This is the last game with regards to the Met tonight. I mean, Columbus plays at the end of the night, but doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, to put it bluntly. Tampa Bay and Detroit are holding on to the last 2 wildcard spots. Tampa Bay with 65 points. Detroit with 64 points. In the Metropolitan, Rangers, Carolina, Philly, all pretty comfy. Philly is 5 points up on the Devils for that 3rd spot in the Met. Devils have 60 points right now, 4 points behind the 2nd wild card, 5 points behind the 1st. The Islanders who we just talked about, they have 58 points, so 6 points back. Washington has 56 points. They are 4 points, or sorry, 8 points back. And the Penguins are 9 points back. They have 55 points. So Islanders, Pittsburgh, both big games for both those teams. And the Devils in Washington too, man. Really, really big game for both these two teams. I got my thoughts on it, but let's give the floor to John. What do you see in this super important game for both these teams in Washington tonight?
On paper, you would really think this should be an easy Devils pick, but I'll just say, as a Devils fan, Washington's made us sweat a couple of times this year, so I can't pick it that easily. I don't know how many times they've met already, but it's been at least 2, maybe 3 times, 2 that I remember. One of the games, I think Washington scored 6 goals on us, so be a little careful with this one. Don't underestimate Washington. I know they're playing very poorly, but I'll say an interesting note. I believe at least 2 of the previous meetings this season went over, and I whipped out the Devil's puck line on Friday's show, but I try not to go to that too often. I think I'd be a little greedy doing it again here, so I'm not going to. What I am gonna do here is pick the under. I really like the under in this game. I mentioned before, at least 2 of the previous meetings this season had 9 goals. I think that's due to change. That seems like both teams playing over their heads a little bit. I feel like this is due to be a low scoring game. That's just my take on it. So I'm trying to find something here. The Devils are definitely the better scoring team for sure. Washington's a bottom 3 team in the league in goals per game. Devils are in the top 7. But one thing I want to note on the Devils side of things, and we touched on this on Friday's show as well, and especially after the Stadium Series game, it feels like our goaltending is getting a bit more stable when, quite frankly, we need it to. Dawes, I like the way he's been playing the last few games, and I think he's getting a very friendly matchup tonight. Let's get real, against Washington, assuming Dawes is playing. I feel like this is going to be one where the Devils don't give up a lot of goals, and the over-under is 6.5. I'm going to trust this to stay under 7. The Devils have been playing some lower-scoring games of late, and I don't see Washington lighting it up on the Devils again here. So I feel like the best play here is to take the under with the odds we're getting with the money line.
Yeah, I don't see any goalie props up on DraftKings. I do see NHL.com has Vanacek's numbers posted. I don't know if that matters. Will be interesting to see. I would be pretty surprised. I know Dawes has played a lot of hockey over the last week. I think he played all 4 games last week for you guys. But I still would be a little bit surprised if he did not play tonight. Andre, we'll go to you next, man. What do you see in this one?
Well, like you, Mark, I tend to forget that Columbus is in the Met. And John, I'm glad you touched on Nico Dawes because he has been absolutely balling out lately.
Yes.
3-1 in his last 4 starts, save percentage over 930 in all of those. The one loss, he only gave up 2 goals. He's been playing phenomenally, and with that offense, that's what you need. I'm tired of the Capitals. I just can't wait until they're not a thing this season because they're just not good. I really firmly, strongly believe that the Devils are in a different tax bracket than the Capitals this season. I think they're going to do what they did to them in January, which is pummel them and beat them by multiple goals. I'm not going to take the -1.5, however. I'm going to take the 60-minute line, which is +100. I was surprised that it's +100. That's the same as the Rangers one was. And the money line odds are obviously very different in those games. So that threw me for a bit of a loop. But asking him to win in 60 minutes against his Capitals team isn't asking too much, in my opinion. Even if it's by multiple goals, I trust that more. The offense, light years ahead. Dawes is playing well. Capitals aren't a good team, period. So just keep Ovi out the net, and the team won't have anything else to play for, right?
That's right. All right. Since neither of you two are going to have the stones to do it, I'll step up. I'll be the hero here. Devils -1.5 plus 150. I absolutely love it. And I'm very well aware, John, that this does not hit very often. I'm very aware that this has been a cursed bet all year long. I think plain and simple, Capitals, we've been waiting for it. Don't worry, Andre. It's coming. They're 2-6-2 in their last 10 games. I know the Devils 5-4-1. I think the more important stat for the Devils is 3 of their last 4 games they have won. They beat Philly on the weekend, huge win. They beat Nashville, they beat Seattle, not juggernauts, but pesky teams that will make you work for it. I think the Devils are turning it around here. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know. I don't see Detroit falling off the face of the earth, and Tampa Bay has that championship pedigree still. As much as Tampa Bay is not the same team that has won the cup, I do think getting past Tampa and Detroit is going to be a challenge. That being said, I do think the Devils are finally turning the corner, and I think they're playing really well, and I think that win on Saturday night, that stadium series for both of the winners, I think was really big deal, and I think that is going to galvanize this team. Washington is falling off the face of the earth slowly but surely. It's been a slow death, Andre. There's no doubt about it. But I do see the Devils stepping up and winning -1.5. And I also like, to me, they have to tonight. Like, I don't want to see them lose to teams that they're better than for the rest of the year. It's gut check time. You dug yourself into this big hole. Now you got to beat these teams, man. No disrespect to Washington. They've been relevant for much longer than we all thought they would. But you got to win this game. You got to beat this team. I know it's on the road, but you got to beat this team. -1.5 plus 150. Give it to me. The over and the under, I don't know. You guys can debate that. I don't. I feel like whenever I bet the over on the Devils, it goes under, and then the opposite is true as well. So I just stay away from the totals when it comes to the Devils. But hey, man, I don't know. I'm feeling good about that -1.5 tonight. I'll step up for the boys and get it done. -1.5 plus 150. All right, moving on to another huge game in the playoff picture. This time, moving over to the Western Conference, Winnipeg home against Minnesota. -155 are the Jets at home. +130 are the Wild on the road. -1.5 on the Jets puck line is +154. +1.5 on the Wild puck line is -185. The over is 6 at +102, and the under is -122. This game to me is a classic. The Wild had a wild victory. That joke was passed around quite a bit in the group chat yesterday. Wild win yesterday, and that's Andre's joke. I can't take credit for it. I might drop it here, but that was all Andre. Minnesota had that insane game yesterday. The Jets coughed up a 2-goal lead against Calgary and lost the game by 3. So not only were they winning that game handedly, they lost it handedly. And I think this is a classic. The up come down and the down go up. I think the Jets come back, and I think the Jets win this game. The Wild have been really impressing me lately. You guys have heard me say it over and over again this year. I really like this team. But that being said, I think yesterday was insane. They're going to Winnipeg, which I know isn't too far, but they're going to Winnipeg. And I think that yesterday that was a tough loss for the Jets. I think they bounce back. I think they win. The only play I really like here from a side standpoint is the 60-minute line. And I think the fact that the 60-minute line is minus 110 speaks to me. I know that the money line is minus 155, but for the 60-minute line to be minus money as well, that kind of talks to me about what the books are really thinking here. And I'm picking the Jets. 60-minute line minus 110. I know that their backup Brossoit is in the net, but he's been a stud all year long. I know that because every morning he's playing, he's picked up off my fantasy wire at like 7 a.m. So he's been a very good backup goaltender all year long. And don't forget, I don't know how much this matters, but both goaltenders played for the Wild yesterday. So that might mean something heading into this game in Winnipeg tonight. So 60-minute line minus 110. Andre, we'll go to you, man. What do you see in this one? You see it the same?
No, I think I'm going to take the Wild to win again.
Ooh.
And it has more to do with Winnipeg, I think, than Minnesota. Yesterday's game for the Jets kind of resembled what happened right before and then right after the break for them, where they just really, really, really struggled. And I know the Vancouver win on Saturday was huge, very impressive. But even the two games before that they had won weren't that impressive. The 2-1 against Pittsburgh, the 1-0 against San Jose. And I just don't think they're back in their groove yet. I don't think they're, that juggernaut that they were for a month and change of this season that got them so high in the standings. Whereas Minnesota, I feel like, starting to click. We know health was an issue for them earlier. They've got the pieces back. The offense is making moves up. Obviously not 10 goals every night, but they're consistent 2, 3, capable of 5 against anyone. They did score 5 against Vegas a week ago. I know they're on the road. I know they haven't beaten this Jets team this season. I think they do it tonight. So I'm going to take Minnesota plus 130 here. I'm going to take the over.
John, what about you, man? What do you see here?
This might be the toughest game to pick yet of the 5 we've done so far. I don't have a strong lean on anything here. I don't think I'm as bold as Andre in picking the Wild to win again. I feel like asking them to come up with another big goal scoring performance is tough in this spot. Back to back, plus the number 1 goaltending team in the league. I know Winnipeg gave up 6 yesterday, but I'm trying to throw that out the window here, or think this isn't going to last again. But man, I don't trust Winnipeg to win puck line either. So I'm really torn here. I guess you could argue 60-minute line. I do think Winnipeg's the much better goaltending team, which might put them over the top here. But I think just because I like this bet today for some reason, because I've been doing a couple of these. But so what's one more? How about the under 6? I might shoot it here. But Winnipeg allowed 6 yesterday. Minnesota scored 10 yesterday. Both of them are playing the back-to-back.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very surprised if both of those things hold up again. I don't think Winnipeg's giving up a lot again. I don't think Minnesota scored a touchdown and a field goal, as Andre eloquently put it yesterday, again. So I just feel like this is one of those games where the sports books seem to be leaning towards a regress to the mean, and I'm going to buy into it, especially on a back-to-back. So, and the under's still pretty juiced up, and it's only 6. It's only 6. So I think that's really standing out to me here. I'm going to take I think this is my third under bet in this slate so far. So give me the under 6 here.
I think that's a great point by you, John, that both these teams defensively were a disaster yesterday. Like, I mean, we know how this is in pro sports. Like, yeah, they won 10-7, but the coach is not going to bed at night be like, oh, you won 10-7. How nice. Like, that's awful. Like, you can't put yourself in a position where you need to score 10 goals. You know what I mean? And they needed 8 of those 10. It's not like they were up,
it wasn't someone beating the Sharks.
Right. They weren't up like 8-2. Like, they needed 8 of those 10 goals to win that game yesterday. And the coach can't be thrilled with that. So I'm 100% with you, man. I think that defensively, this game is going to be super tight, super locked down. Great point by you. I love that under as well. Also, I got to point this out. My guy, Eriksson Ek, 7 goals in his last 5 games. I know that he scored 3 yesterday, but that means that he had 4 goals in 4 games before that. Plus 165 for him to score tonight. He is the 4th best, or the 4th worst, I guess. Whichever way you want to say it. Plus 165 for him to score tonight. Also, Kyle Connor not lighting it up since he's been back from the injury. Still only plus 140 for him to score. Not terrific, but he's got to come back around at some point in time. He was at an all-star level before he got his injury, still rounding into form. So I like just hitting Kyle Connor. He's going to hit. It's a matter of time as he ramps up getting into the playoffs. Now, another team, when it comes to that insane game in Minnesota last night, this one, I've been waiting to talk about this one. Vancouver is on the road in Colorado. So they go from Minnesota to Colorado. Colorado is minus 148. Home favorites. Plus 124 are the Vancouver Canucks. Minus 1.5 on the Colorado puck line. Plus 164. Plus 1.5 on the Vancouver puck line is minus 198. The over is 6.5 at minus 120. The under is plus 100. Boys, we have one rule on this show. If Vancouver is plus money, you take it. However, they're coming off of a disastrous loss yesterday, staying on the road, going to Colorado. Does this rule still apply tonight? Andre, we'll start with you, man. Do you still take Vancouver rather, plus money in Ball Arena?
The one silver lining from yesterday's nightmare is that Casey DeSmith played the entire game. That poor soul. So
great point.
Thatcher Demko will be good to go for tonight, 100%. The issue is that their skaters are still out there. This is the second half of back-to-back. Now they're going to Denver, which may be the toughest place to play on the road. Not just in the NHL, but every sport, honestly. Even the Rockies, they put up a fight at home. So you're asking a lot for a team that gave up 10 goals yesterday. As good as they are in almost every way, to now have to face a Stanley Cup contender on their home ice in the second straight day. So I'm not only going to take the Avalanche, I think I'm going to take the puck line.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. That's 1.5. Vancouver's tremendous. Thatcher Demko won't be in net. I just don't think they're going to have the legs to keep up with Colorado and Denver.
Okay.
Air hits different up there,
I do. Okay, John, what do you think? So I saw a potential Colorado side, but the puck line, that's interesting. John, what do you think, man?
I have 2 rules conflicting here. The first one, the obvious one, about if you see Vancouver plus money, you take it. The rule I have conflicting with this is, bar none, usually I almost always fade a team playing 3 games in 4 days, and this is what Vancouver's facing here.
Yeah.
So I'm really torn. I swear, man, if this was any other team, I would be fading Vancouver and hopping on right with Andre with the puck line. But I can't do it. I think the Vancouver rule prevails here, especially because they got embarrassed yesterday. I'll add this is the third rule. I usually like to pick a team to bounce back unless they're just truly bad. Yeah, I can't ignore the plus money here. Vancouver plus 124. I don't think there's a chance in hell they give up 10 goals again, or a lot of goals for that matter. I'm almost tempted. I would have almost been tempted to pick the under here, but I think I'm playing with fire a little bit on that one, considering these are two of the top scoring teams in the NHL. I think they're second and third, if I remember that right. Or, yeah, second and third. So, might be playing with fire on that one to touch the total. Yeah, I get the Vancouver's lost both of the prior two games as well. So I think Vancouver's going to be looking for a win here, especially after the way they looked yesterday. And I think it's a nice touch that Demko didn't play at all. The skaters probably are a bit tired, but I think they bring it out one more time at least. Vancouver plus money until it fails. Give it to me.
Yeah, I think it was a really, really smart play by Coach Tocchet to keep Casey DeSmith in there all game. I think for Minnesota, it's a bit different. Like Minnesota needed those 2 points way more than Vancouver did. And so I think, make the goalie change. I know that we're playing a back-to-back tomorrow, but make the goalie change. Let's get that win tonight. That being said, it's not that Vancouver didn't need the win, but you know what? It's already 7-5, 6-5, or whatever. Sorry, bud. You're gonna ride this one out for us, ride or die. So I do think Thatcher Demko being in that tonight and not playing last night is a huge plus. I'm really, really torn on this game. I think I am gonna go Vancouver as well. I think that all signs are pointing not to, though. I do worry about the 3 games in 4 nights. I do worry about being exhausted after the tire fire of a game that last night was. What I'm really excited to kind of see and really interested in is Vancouver's a very good team. Are we at that championship pedigree where we can dig down deep after a disastrous performance? And like you mentioned, John, like that loss against Winnipeg Saturday, that was a tough loss too. And so I do think there is a professionalism in there where they're going to dig down deep and they're going to find a way to win this game tonight. No disrespect to Colorado. I take Thatcher Demko every day of the week against the goaltending for Colorado. I'm picking Vancouver too, man. You better do it quick though, because we were just talking and Vancouver was plus 124. They're now plus 120. So if you're going to bet that Vancouver money, you better do it soon. But I think I like Vancouver here too. If Andre is right and Colorado wins this game, no surprise. I'm expecting Vancouver to step up here and show us what they have with regards to, 2 really tough losses. Let's bounce back. Let's get the win. And let's take Vancouver plus money, plus 120 now on DraftKings. Moving on to Vegas beating the Sharks last night. They are still at home. Were they at home last night? I can't remember. I think they were, right?
They were in the tank.
Oh, they were in San Jose. So they are back at home tonight against Vegas. Nashville, plus 120, road dogs. Vegas, minus 142. Minus 1.5 puck line for the Golden Knights is plus 170. Plus 1.5 puck line for the Predators is minus 205. Over 6.5 is plus 1. Over 6 rather is plus 100. The under is minus 120. John, we'll start with you, man. What do you see in this game in Vegas tonight?
First off, I'll give a little shout out to the Golden Knights. I did fade them yesterday, thinking San Jose would fight. Maybe I should have known better. Sharks and I are still not on great terms at the moment. We're fighting again. Vegas showed why they're one of the better teams. They won a game they were supposed to win in shutout fashion. Put it that way. I don't think there's a lot more to say about that one. Which makes tonight's game a little interesting. I was a little worried yesterday they'd look ahead to Nashville. They did not end up doing that. So I think it's going to change my perception on this game a little bit. These two teams are near even in goals per game. There's nothing really jumping out at me offensively that has one of these teams with a blatant edge. I do think Vegas is the much better goaltending team, and they seem to be getting a little better in recent games in that regard. Yesterday's shutout definitely helps there. Vegas is sixth in the league in goals allowed per game, 2.69. Nashville allows 3.26. So I'm not really sure what to make of this one, honestly. Like, I'm not 100% sure if I trust the Golden Knights to cover the puck line on a back-to-back here. Guys, I'm really torn, honestly. Like, I'm gonna take a second look at the total here. Man, 6. So this might be my one stay away game for the day. I'm not sure what Vegas is gonna be on this back-to-back. I think that's what's concerning me, and I just don't. I haven't had a lot of trust in Nashville all year. I did say in our New Year's show, I think if they make the playoffs, they'll be a week 8 seed. And I still believe that. I still feel like Nashville can make the playoffs, but they'll be the weakest team in the playoffs, if you guys catch my drift. So I think this is just me not trusting either side here. I'm going to say this is my stay away one. So I'm taking a bit of a cop out.
Well, a couple games ago, we talked about Minnesota playing against Winnipeg. Same goes for Nashville. If either or both of those teams win tonight, then they're both tied with St. Louis for 60 points in that last wildcard spot. So huge game for Nashville, which is why coming off a back-to-back, I'm taking Nashville money line, no problem. Plus 120. I like Nashville in this spot. No disrespect to Vegas. We know what Vegas is. They're a good team. They're going to compete for the back-to-back Stanley Cup championship for sure. But tonight, in this context, I think they were in California last night. I know Vegas isn't super far or anything like that, but they play the Sharks. They play very well. They get the win. They're coming home. Nashville is listen, they're not, like I've already said, they're not some juggernaut team, but I really like Nashville's fight all year long. I think they are a good team. They're not incredibly deep, but they get the job done when they had to. They had a very convincing win against St. Louis on Saturday, 6-2, if memory serves correctly. And I think that they're in a good spot. Yeah, you look at the last 10 games and Golden Knights 6-3-1, Predators 3-6-1. There's no denying Vegas is playing better hockey right now. I just think tonight in this spot, it bodes very well for Nashville. The really interesting side of this is the goaltending matchup. There's no doubt it doesn't matter Logan Thompson, doesn't matter Aiden Hill. Vegas's goaltending has been by far way more consistent than Nashville has. Saros is a good goaltender. His stats will not tell you that this year. He's been inconsistent all year long. So that is the real question. Like Marchessault can score 2 goals in the first 10 minutes of this game. You know, that's the real question here is, can the goaltending for the Predators hold up against the pushback from Vegas, which will for sure come. So I'm taking Nashville plus 120. I'm staying away from the total, staying away from the puck line. But I do like Nashville plus 120. Andre, go to you, man. What do you see in this one?
Yeah, even playing the second straight day, I'm going to trust Vegas to pull out the win because Aiden Hill didn't play yesterday. It was Logan Thompson.
Yep, good point.
Aiden Hill's the far better of the two. Honestly, he might be the best goaltender playing this season. Like, he's having the best season, even with the injury. So, not taking the puck line. Don't really trust that. They are playing for the second straight day, even on their home ice. There might be a fatigue factor, but I'm going to take the 60-minute line at plus 105. Offense, I trust it more than Nashville's. Aiden Hill, I trust arguably more than any other goalie in the Western Conference this season. They're on home ice. The Predators are scrappy. They're cockroaches, but they're not that good. They haven't won consecutive games since January 12th and 13th. So a month now of games where they followed a win with a loss. I'm taking Vegas in this one.
All right, moving on to Columbus and LA. The last time I said that a Columbus game wasn't worth watching, it was one of the more compelling games of the night on Saturday against San Jose. They are in LA tonight. LA minus 250 at home. Columbus is plus 205. The puck line for the Kings is minus 105 for minus 1.5. Plus 1.5 for the Blue Jackets is minus 115. The over 6.5 at minus 105. And the under is also minus 115. So, boys, both Andre and I picked the Kings to miss the playoffs. We've talked about this Kings team a lot. This is their third game in 4 nights. However, 2 huge wins on back-to-back days over the weekend to Boston and to the Penguins. As I mentioned yesterday in my takeaway, both of those wins were comeback wins late in the hockey game, coming back and getting the job done. I like the Kings. I don't know. I like the Kings minus 1.5. I do, but I am a little bit nervous about it. I do think this is a good spot for Columbus. They haven't been playing a ton of hockey lately. Their money line is obviously incredibly spicy at plus 205. But the Kings, they're back home. They had 2 very impressive road wins. Okay, let's see it. You're back home. You're playing Columbus. You got to have this game, and you got to have it by 2 or more goals. You got to make a statement here. I know that you get 2 points for a win, regardless of if it's a statement game or not. But I do think that the Kings need to lay a beat down tonight. And a beat down in Kings standards is like 3-1. Like, it doesn't have to be crazy. I just think that the Kings need this win tonight, and they need it badly. Minus 1.5. I'm taking it. Minus 105. Just to reiterate, they are 4 points up of St. Louis. They're in the first wild card spot. They're only 3 points back from the Oilers right now for that third spot. Now, the way that this playoff format is, just a little side note here, if the Kings go into the playoffs today, they play Dallas in the first round. If they jump over Edmonton and get into the third spot, they play Vegas in the first round. So which one would you rather? I don't know. They both suck. But the third spot is still manageable, and they're only 6 points back of Vegas for that second spot. So they built themselves up a big cushion, took a big fall in the middle of the year. But anyway, I digress. I see them winning tonight by 2 or more goals. John, we'll go to you, man. What do you see?
I think I was about to jump on the puck line before, and remembering that they're playing 3 games in 4 days. That does make me a little nervous. it doesn't seem like the sports books care about that aspect based on the lines we're seeing here. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous with Columbus. They're one of those joker teams that you never know what you're going to get from them. I don't think they'll win or anything, but like, I think I'm a little hesitant to pick a puck line here just for those two reasons. I will say that Kings are fourth in the league in goaltending. Columbus is bottom two, but I do think the Kings are going to be playing a little tired here. So just because I seem to be on this trend today, let's make it a fourth. Let's make it a fourth game of the 8 where I pick an under bet. I'm taking the under 6.5 here, or I think it's under 6.5. Yeah, under 6.5. I feel like the Kings are going to be playing a little tired. Their goaltending, I expect to step up here. I do think the Kings will win. I'm just not sure if it'll be by 2 or not. I just think this is going to be one of those tight, low-scoring games. Getting the feeling. So give me yet another under pick in this one.
Andre, what about you, bro? What do you see here?
I'm with John on the under big time. We don't have to talk about Columbus's many struggles on the ice, but we can talk about the Kings and just still very strong goaltending for their season-long numbers, just mediocre scoring. In their last 4 games, only one of those they scored more than 2 goals. That was the win in Boston. And then looking at those same 4 games, granted they were all on the road, but they really leaned on those third periods to come away with 2 points in the 3 wins. They got their teeth kicked in Buffalo, but we don't talk about that. They're not pulling away from these teams is my point, though. The 7-goal loss followed by 3 1-goal wins. The Kings have been a better team on the road all season, so them coming back home with granted they won, they needed wins desperately, but wins where they escaped by the skin of their teeth doesn't really bode well for me. Doesn't inspire confidence. So I think they're going to win this one, but I think it's going to resemble the last 3 games where they need a late goal in the third to take that lead and they cling to it for dear life, or they win it in overtime. So I'm going to take the Jackets plus 1.5 at minus 115.
Yeah, I can't hate that based on what we've seen lately. There's no doubt about it. All right, let's move on to our best bets, brought to you by, as always, First Round Collectibles. With promo code Sports Addict, you get 10% off whatever sports card your heart desires: hockey, basketball, football, baseball, wrestling, boxing, whatever you want, they have it. Sports Addict is the promo code for 10% off. They still have their sale going up to 50% off dozens of cards, and get an additional 10% off with promo code Sports Addict. Whether it is a sale item or not, you get 10% off regardless with promo code Sports Addict. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. All right. Andre, we'll go to you first, man. What is your best bet for this Tuesday night in the NHL?
A lot of really, really good games, but I'm going to go back to the first one in Sunrise. Panthers are on a tear. Senators, second half of a back-to-back. Panthers already beat this team 5-0. This game might not be as bad, but I don't expect the Senators to be within a goal when it's all said and done. So I'm going to take the Panthers minus 1.5 at minus 108.
Love it. John, what about you, man? What do you see here?
I like that pick to start it off, by the way. Yeah, that was one of my strong contenders as well. Looking at the rest of this slate, there's definitely a lot of interesting picks here. I picked about 4 under bets. I think I'm gonna end up picking one of them here. I'll put some stakes on my team here. I really think Devils Capitals is gonna end up under 6.5. I think it's due to be a low game. We don't know if Dawes is gonna end up playing or not. I mean, Devils haven't played since Saturday. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. So if Dawes plays, I feel like the Capitals are due to have a lower scoring game against the Devils. He's been playing very well. I think the Capitals can keep the game manageable on the goaltending side of things. So I do like under 6.5 to hit in our nation's capital.
Okay, I am going to a little bit off the board here. I don't really like any of these games tonight as a best bet. I struggle to pick a confident side either way. I really like Vancouver, but that one has its pros and cons for that pick. I really like Winnipeg on the 60-minute line, but that one also, with what we saw from Minnesota yesterday, that one's kind of back and forth. I am going to stick with that game, though. And Eriksson Ek has been on a rampage. 7 goals, 5 assists in his last 5 games, 12 points. He's a +5 over that stretch. 4 power play points, 15 shots. He is averaging 3 shots a game over his last 5 games. Where he goes right now, that team follows. And so I am picking him a little bit of a longer shot bet, but I really like over 3.5 shots for Eriksson Ek tonight, +110. That's my go-to. Watching this guy play. He's on my fantasy team as well, so I've been keeping an eye on him. And he's just been playing absolutely lights out. I do think it's a tired bunch in Minnesota, or for Minnesota rather, tonight. But I think he's the straw that stirs the drink, if you will. And I see him cooking tonight. Over 3.5 shots, +110.
Good bets, gentlemen. Panthers -1.5. Oh, huge bounce back yesterday.
Yeah, not a great slate from us yesterday.
We got beat by the books for sure. But Panthers -1.5 today just jumped to -105, so a little bit better odds. The under 6.5 in Washington, D.C. is -108. Eriksson Ek, over 3.5 shots on goal for the Minnesota Wild, +110. Parlay together, that's +689.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Huge bounce back, boys, in the works. We've been doing well on our picks, but I feel like the Monday games have been getting us, man. I feel like that's a trend. I could be wrong about it, but maybe the people got to start fading us on Mondays and jump back on board on Tuesdays. Or maybe
Monday I feel like a bit rusty compared to the middle of the week.
Yeah, well, I'm kicking myself, man, because there's some picks that I had yesterday that I forgot to mention yesterday that worked out well for me, man. Matthew Nyes, first goal scorer in the Leaf game, that hit. But anyway, it's a new day. Let's bounce back. Let's get it. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. As always, we appreciate you. Thank you for working with us in this new time slot at 9 a.m. Continuing this Monday to Friday. So whether you're watching live, whether you're watching later in the day, we appreciate you. Follow us on all of our socials. Like, subscribe, the whole deal. We will see you tomorrow.